Captain Kim Tae-ho was drinking his morning coffee when the world ended. He stood in the cargo bay of his ship, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. The blue and white planet looked peaceful from here. Beautiful clouds swirled over green continents and blue oceans. His home, his family. His entire life was down there on that spinning ball of rock and water. The radio crackled with morning traffic from Earth control, cargo ships heading to Mars, research vessels bound for Jupiter mining operations, departing for the asteroid belt. It was just another normal day in the year. 2387. Humans had spread across the solar system, but Earth was still home. Still the center of everything. Then the sky lit up with silver ships. They came from nowhere. Massive. Vessels the size of cities dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation around Earth. The alien ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. Smooth silver hulls that reflected sunlight like mirrors. No visible weapons, no obvious threats, just overwhelming. Size and the promise of power beyond human understanding. The aliens had been talking to Earth governments for 6 months. They called themselves the Galactic Empire. They said they wanted peace. They said they wanted to trade. They lied. Captain Kim Tae-ho watched from his cargo ship as the first energy beams lanced down from the alien fleet. Earth defense satellites died in silent flashes of light. The orbital stations that protected humanity simply vanished as if they had never existed at all. His hands shook as he reached for the communication panel. Every frequency was full of screaming voices and desperate calls for help. The lunar colonies were under attack. The Mars defense grid was going offline. One by one, the lights of human civilization were going dark. On Earth, the major cities tried to fight back nuclear missiles launched from hidden silos around the world. They streaked up through the atmosphere toward the silver ships above. The Galactic vessels didn't even bother to dodge the human. Weapons simply exploded harmlessly against energy shields that made them look like firecrackers. Captain Kim Tae-ho had served in the Earth Defense Force for 10 years before becoming a cargo pilot. He knew what those missiles could do. He had seen them level mountains in training exercises, but they did nothing to the alien ships. Nothing at all. The second wave of alien attacks targeted the cities directly. New York was first. Captain Kim Tae-ho watched through his ship's telescopes as a beam of pure energy struck Manhattan. The entire island vanished in a flash of white light that hurt to look at even from space. When the light faded, there was nothing left but a crater filled with boiling water. London was next, then Tokyo, then Moscow. One by one, the great cities of Earth disappeared under the alien weapons. The oceans began to boil from the heat. The atmosphere started to glow from the energy being poured into it. Captain Kim Tae-ho tried to call his wife. She lived in Seoul with their 2 children. The communication channels were full of static and screaming. He kept trying to reach her, even as he watched his homeworld die. Seoul disappeared in the same white flash that had taken all the others. His family was gone. His world was gone. Everything he had ever known was turning into superheated plasma. The defense fleets tried to help Admiral Park. Soo-jin led the combined human naval forces in a desperate attack on the alien ships. Human vessels swarmed around the massive Galactic cruisers like angry insects. Our weapons bounced off their shields. Our ships exploded when they fired back, but the humans kept fighting, kept trying to protect their home, even when it was already too late. Captain Kim Tae-ho listened to Admiral Park's final transmission through tears and rage. All human vessels, this is Admiral Park. Earth has fallen. The defense grid is destroyed. I repeat, Earth is gone. Find the other survivors. Make them pay for what they have done. The blue marble that had been Earth was gone, replaced by an expanding cloud of glowing debris that had once been continents and oceans. 8 billion people had lived on that planet. 8 billion lives snuffed out in less than 6 hours. The Valak Empire had committed the greatest act of genocide in galactic history, and they had done it as easily as stepping on an insect. But they had made one mistake. They hadn't killed all the humans. Across the solar system, scattered human ships received the same desperate message. Mining vessels from the asteroid belt, research stations around Jupiter, the small military outpost near Saturn Colony, ships that had been heading to other star systems, cargo haulers like Captain Kim Tae-ho's ship that had been making routine runs between the planets. Less than 50,000 humans were still alive in the entire universe. The Valak had succeeded in their genocide, or so they thought. On the asteroid mining platform Sejong 7, engineer Lee Min-ho gathered the survivors around him. His mining station had been hidden behind a large asteroid when the attack began. His workers had watched their homeworld die through telescopes and sensor arrays. Now they floated in the cold dark between Mars and Jupiter, trying to understand how their entire species had been nearly wiped out in a single day. The Valak thought they had won, Lee Min-ho told the crowd of miners and technicians. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with a fury that scared the people listening to him. They think we are finished? They think we are just insects they can step on whenever they want. But they have made one critical mistake. They have left us alive, and now we have absolutely nothing left to lose. What the Valak Empire didn't understand about humans was that they had evolved on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. Earth had tried to kill humanity for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, plagues that wiped out entire civilizations. But humans had survived, all of it. They had learned to adapt to change, to fight back against impossible odds. Humans had built cities under the ocean and thrived in frozen wastelands. They had learned to live in the vacuum of space and on worlds where nothing should be, able to survive. They had fought wars against each other for thousands of years, perfecting the art of violence and survival. Most importantly, humans had learned that when you have nothing left to lose, you become the most dangerous thing in the universe. Captain Kim Tae-ho set course for the Jupiter system, where other survivors were gathering. His cargo ship was not much to look at, just a simple vessel designed to carry supplies between the colonies. But he was already thinking about how to modify it. How to turn it into something the Valak Empire would fear. He wasn't the only one throughout the solar system. The scattered remnants of humanity were moving in the darkness between planets. They had no home to defend anymore, no civilians to protect, no rules of engagement to follow. The Valak had created something far more dangerous than they realized. They had created humans with nothing but revenge in their hearts and the skills to make it happen. The age of human vengeance was about to begin. 3 months had passed since Earth became a cloud of glowing dust. The Valak Empire celebrated their victory with grand ceremonies on their conquered worlds. Their massive silver ships now controlled the inner solar system, harvesting the remains of humanity's homeworld like vultures picking at bones. The aliens thought the human problem was solved forever. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. Commander Choi Da-eun crawled through the ventilation shaft of the Valak flagship, Her. Breathing was slow and controlled, like she had learned in Special Forces training before the war, before her world died, before she became something else entirely. She was no longer a soldier defending her home. She was a ghost seeking vengeance. Maintenance tunnels were tight and dark, perfect for someone small and determined. The Valak were huge creatures standing 3 meters tall with thick purple skin and 4 powerful arms. They had never imagined that something as small as a human could move through their ships like a virus in blood. Da-eun had been smuggled aboard 3 days ago, hidden in a cargo container full of scrap metal from Earth. The Valak were taking everything from humanity's dead world. Even the twisted remains of buildings and vehicles were valuable to them. They never thought to scan every piece of debris for life signs. She was not alone. 12 other human operatives had infiltrated the Valak fleet, using the same method. They moved through the alien. Ships like shadows, learning the layout, studying the enemy, finding weaknesses that could be exploited. The Valak had made their ships beautiful, but not practical. Their corridors were wide and decorated with artistic metalwork that provided perfect hiding spots. Their computer systems were advanced, but not secured against the kind of creative hacking that desperate humans could manage. Dayun reached a junction in the ventilation system and paused. She could hear Valak voices below speaking. In their deep, rumbling language, she had learned enough of their words to understand basic concepts. They were discussing the final phase of Earth's destruction, the complete harvesting of the planet's core metals. Her hand tightened on the small, explosive device in her pack. It was built from spare parts and human ingenuity. Nothing fancy, but it would destroy the ship's main power coupling when detonated. The Valak would never see it coming. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Korvac stood, before a massive window showing the remains of Earth. The destruction still amazed him. 8 billion intelligent creatures wiped out in less than a day. It was the most efficient conquest in Valak history. Admiral Korvac was old even by Valak standards. He had led the conquest of 17 worlds in his long career. But Earth had been special. The humans had actually tried to fight back with their primitive weapons. It had been amusing to watch their missiles bounce harmlessly off Valak shields. He never noticed the tiny camera watching him from a ventilation grate. Da-Un was recording everything she saw, learning about Valak command structure, battle tactics, ship layouts. Every piece of information would be valuable when the time came to strike back. Far from the inner system, the surviving human fleet had found sanctuary in the shadow of Jupiter. The giant planet's radiation and magnetic fields made detection difficult. The scattered ships had gathered here like wounded animals seeking. Shelter engineer Yang Kyung-soo worked day and night in the cargo bay of a converted mining vessel. Around him, dozens of other engineers and technicians labored to transform their peaceful ships into weapons of war. They had salvaged technology from destroyed Valak patrol craft, learning how alien systems worked, adapting them for human use. The work was dangerous. Valak technology was not designed for human hands. Several engineers had died from electrical burns or toxic exposure. But the survivors kept working, driven by grief and rage and the absolute need for revenge. Yang Kyung-soo had been designing civilian spacecraft before the war. His ships were built for efficiency and safety, not for combat. But now he was learning to think like a warrior. Every modification he made was designed to kill Valak soldiers as effectively as possible. The most important discovery came from Dr. Nam Yun-ah. She had been a xenobiologist studying alien life forms captured by human exploration missions. Now she studied the only aliens that mattered. The ones who had murdered her world. Dr. Nam worked in a makeshift laboratory aboard the research vessel New Horizon. She had managed to obtain tissue samples from dead Valak soldiers killed. In the early skirmishes, her microscopes and scanners revealed fascinating information about alien biology. The Valak were indeed powerful. Their muscles were dense and strong. Their bones were thick and hard to break. Their skin could resist most human weapons. But Dr. Nam found something interesting buried in their nervous system. Data Valak neural networks were incredibly advanced, much more complex than human brains. This gave them superior reflexes and information processing. But it also created a weakness. Their nervous systems operated on very specific electromagnetic frequencies, frequencies that human technology could duplicate and weaponize. Dr. Nam stayed awake for 3 days straight, running calculations and simulations. When she finally had her answer, she called an emergency meeting of the surviving human leadership. The discovery would change everything. The Valak nervous system responds to electromagnetic radiation at 847 megahertz, she told the assembled officers. An engineer's exposure to this frequency causes immediate neural disruption, paralysis, loss of motor control. In high doses, it could be fatal. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Humans had stumbled onto the perfect weapon against their enemies. Not bullets or missiles or explosives, but simple radio waves tuned to the right frequency. Captain Oh Young-woo was the first to speak. "How do we weaponize this information?" Dr. Nam smiled for the first time since Earth died. "We modify our communication arrays. Every human ship has powerful radio transmitters. We can turn them into weapons that the Valak will never see." Coming work began immediately on what the humans started calling frequency weapons. Every ship in the fleet began modifications to their communication systems. Mining lasers were recalibrated to broadcast the fatal frequency. Cargo bay doors were fitted with broadcast arrays. Even personal communicators were modified to emit the deadly signal. The Valak had no idea that death was being prepared for them in the cold darkness beyond Jupiter. They continued their victory celebrations, their systematic destruction of human colonies, their plans for expanding the empire to other star systems. They thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy, the ultimate evolutionary success story. But they had never encountered anything like humans before. They had never faced a species that could adapt and evolve and learn from defeat as the human fleet completed their preparations. Commander Daun and her infiltration teams prepared for their part of the mission. They had spent months inside Valak ships, learning every detail of alien technology. Now they would use that knowledge to strike from within. The attack was planned for the anniversary of Earth's destruction. The humans wanted the Valak to remember this date forever. The day they learned that some species cannot be conquered, cannot be broken, cannot be made extinct. Admiral Korvac stood on his bridge reviewing reports of successful mining operations in the former Earth system. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The human problem had been solved permanently. The galaxy was safer for civilized species like the Valak he had. No way of knowing that invisible signals were already being broadcast from hidden human ships, signals that would turn his own nervous system against him, signals that would bring the wrath of a supposedly extinct species down on his fleet, like a hammer. The age of Valak dominance was about to end. The age of human revenge was about to begin. In the darkness between worlds, 50,000 surviving humans prepared to remind the galaxy why their species had conquered the most dangerous planet in known space. They had learned to survive ice ages and asteroid impacts and global plagues. Now they would learn to survive genocide, and the Valak Empire would learn what it meant to be afraid. The attack began at exactly 4 in the morning Earth time, exactly 1 year after the world died. Commander Da-un felt the vibration through the Valak flagship as hidden explosives detonated throughout the ship. Power systems failed artificial. Gravity flickered. Life support began shutting down in sections. She smiled in the darkness of the ventilation shaft. It was the first time she had smiled since watching Earth burn all across the Valak fleet. Human infiltration teams struck at the same moment. 12 ships suffered critical system failures as tiny bombs placed by human hands destroyed vital components. The aliens had never imagined that their enemies could be living inside their own vessels, like parasites, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Admiral Korvac stumbled as his flagship shuddered around him. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red horror. Emergency alarms screamed in the Valak language. But the real terror was just beginning. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Like wolves emerging from shadows, Admiral Kang Dong-min led the attack from his flagship, the New Seoul, a converted cargo vessel that now bristled with weapons reverse-engineered from captured alien technology. The Valak had never seen ships move like the human vessels. They darted and weaved through space with impossible agility. Their smaller size and human engineering made them incredibly maneuverable. The massive Valak cruisers were powerful but slow, built for overwhelming Firepower, not dogfighting. Captain Oh Young-woo piloted his mining ship, the New Busan, directly toward a Valak destroyer. His vessel had been completely rebuilt over the past year. Mining equipment removed, weapon systems installed, armor plating welded, over the cargo bays. It looked like a flying scrapyard, but it was deadly. The Valak destroyer fired its main guns, massive energy beams that could vaporize a city. But Captain O was not where the aliens expected him to be. His ship twisted and rolled through space following flight patterns that no sane pilot would attempt. The enemy beams missed by meters. Captain O smiled as he activated his secret weapon. The frequency broadcaster hidden in his communications array began transmitting the deadly electromagnetic signal that Dr. Nam had discovered. The Valak destroyer simply stopped moving inside the alien ship. The crew collapsed as their nervous systems overloaded. The frequency that made their brains so advanced also made them vulnerable to the right kind of electromagnetic attack. Every Valak soldier on the ship fell to the deck paralyzed and helpless. Captain O rammed his ship directly into the destroyer's hull. His mining ship had been built to work in asteroid fields. It could survive impacts that would destroy normal spacecraft. The Valak ship split open like a cracked egg, spilling air and debris into space. Human boarding teams poured through the breach. Soldiers in armored spacesuits carrying weapons designed for close combat. The Valak were strong, but they were lying helpless on the deck, victims of their own advanced biology. What followed was not a battle, it was extermination. The frequency weapons proved devastatingly effective. Every human ship broadcasting the correct signal could disable entire Valak crews without firing a shot. The aliens had never faced anything like it. Their superior technology meant nothing when their own nervous systems were turned against them. Admiral Korvac watched his fleet, being destroyed by an enemy he thought was extinct. These were not the frightened refugees his intelligence reports had described. These were predators shaped by millions of years of evolution on the most dangerous world in known space. The Valak were apex predators too, but they had evolved on a gentle world with few threats. They had conquered other species through superior technology and overwhelming numbers. They had never learned to fight dirty, to adapt quickly, to survive against impossible odds. Humans had learned all of those things. Commander Da-Yun emerged from the ventilation system into the Valak flagship's main corridor. The ship was in chaos. Emergency power flickered on and off. Alien crew members lay unconscious or paralyzed. From the frequency weapons, dead bodies floated in sections where life support had failed. She moved through the ship like death itself. Her human teammates followed, spreading out to secure critical areas. They had studied the ship's layout for months. They knew exactly where to go and what to do. The bridge was their primary target. Admiral Korvac was the Valak fleet commander. Capturing him would provide valuable intelligence about enemy plans and weaknesses, but more importantly, it would show the galaxy that the mighty Valak Empire could be defeated. Da-Yun found Admiral Korvac collapsed beside his command chair. The frequency weapon had left him conscious but unable to move. His forearms twitched helplessly as she approached. He tried to speak, but only managed wet, gurgling sounds. She knelt beside the alien admiral and spoke in perfect Valak language, learned from months of intercepted communications. "My name is Commander Choi Da-Yun. I am a citizen of Earth, the world you murdered 1 year ago today. I want you to remember this moment. Remember that humans do not forgive, humans do not forget, and humans never give up." Admiral Korvac's eyes widened in terror. He had believed the human species was extinct. He had watched their world burn with his own eyes. Yet here was one of them standing over him, speaking his language, promising revenge. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, nearly half the Valak fleet was destroyed or captured. The surviving alien ships fled deeper into the solar system, carrying news of humanity's impossible return. Admiral Korvac found himself in a human prison cell aboard his own flagship. The ship was now under human control, its systems modified and its crew either dead or captured. He stared at the metal walls and tried to understand how his victory had become defeat. Dr. Nam examined captured Valik equipment with scientific fascination. Every piece of alien technology was a puzzle to be solved, a weapon to be turned against its creators. The frequency weapons had been just the beginning. Human creativity would find new ways to exploit Valik weaknesses. Engineer Yang Kyung-soo supervised the conversion of captured alien vessels into human warships. The Valik built their ships for beauty and overwhelming power. Humans rebuilt them for efficiency and lethality. Every modification made them more dangerous, but the most important victory was psychological. The Valik Empire had ruled through fear and superior technology. Now, they knew that humans lived and humans remembered, and humans were coming for them. Captain Oh Jung-woo stood on the bridge of his battered ship, looking out at the wreckage of the Valik fleet. Burning alien vessels drifted through space like broken dreams. His mining ship had survived the ramming attack, though it would need extensive repairs. He activated his communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Oh Jung-woo of the Human Resistance Fleet. To all Valik forces, to all alien species, to everyone listening across the galaxy. Humanity has returned. We are no longer the peaceful species you conquered. We are something new. Something you created when you murdered our world." The message spread across the galaxy, carried by communication relays and monitoring stations. Every civilization that had feared Valik expansion suddenly had hope. Every species that had been conquered or intimidated began to whisper among themselves, if humans could strike back at the mighty Valik Empire. Perhaps the galaxy's greatest predators were not invincible after all. The human survivors had won their first major victory, but they knew it was only the beginning. The Valik Empire controlled dozens of star systems, their fleets numbered in the thousands. But for the first time since Earth died, hope burned in human hearts. Alongside the hunger for revenge, Admiral Korvac sent his final message to the Valik High Command before the humans cut his communications. The transmission was filled with disbelief and terror. The humans live. Somehow, impossibly, they live, and they are coming for us all. In the darkness between stars, the human fleet began planning their next attack. They had learned to use Valik technology against its creators. They had allies among the conquered species. They had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. The Valik Empire was about to discover what happened when you pushed humanity too far. Word of the human uprising spread through Valik space like a disease. The High Command on the throne world of Kralos Prime could not believe the reports. How could a species they had completely destroyed be striking back with such deadly effectiveness? The answer lay in humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt and evolve faster than any other known species. While the Valik had spent centuries as conquerors, growing comfortable and predictable, humans had never stopped changing. Never stopped. Learning never stopped improving. Colonel Bae-hyun-sik had been a military historian before the war, studying ancient human conflicts and battle strategies. Now he led the intelligence division aboard the converted research vessel New Horizon. His job was to learn everything possible about the Valik Empire and find ways to destroy it. He worked 18 hours a day, analyzing captured alien databases, studying intercepted communications, mapping enemy supply routes. Every piece of information was a weapon that could be used against humanity's enemies. They are spread too thin. He reported to the human command staff. The Valik control 47 star systems, but they rule through fear and superior technology. They have never faced a distributed resistance before. They do not know how to fight an enemy that refuses to stay dead. The human fleet had grown with each victory. Every captured Valak ship was stripped down and rebuilt with human engineering. The aliens had advanced manufacturing, technology, but humans had something more valuable. Creativity born from desperation and refined by generations of warfare. Master Chief Lim Sora led the engineering teams that transformed captured alien vessels. She had designed racing cars before, the war optimizing every component for speed and performance. Now she applied the same principles to instruments of war. The Valak build things to last forever. She explained to her crews while welding armor plating onto a captured destroyer. We build things to win wars. Every system, every weapon, every piece of equipment is designed for one purpose: killing aliens as efficiently as possible. The frequency weapons that had proved so effective in the first battle were constantly improved. Dr. Nam discovered that different Valak subspecies had slightly different neural frequencies. The weapons were modified to broadcast multiple signals, simultaneously disabling any alien crew regardless of their specific biology. But the most significant development came from an unexpected source: private first-class park. Jiwan was only 19 years old, barely more than a child when Earth died. He had been a professional video game player before the war. His reflexes and pattern recognition skills, honed by countless hours of digital combat. The Valak follow standard military doctrine perfectly, he told the command staff after analyzing months of battle data. They have optimal formations, optimal tactics, optimal responses to every situation, but they cannot adapt when we break their rules. They are like computer programs running the same code over and over. Captain Kim Tae-ho, who had survived Earth's destruction in his cargo ship, listened carefully to the young man's analysis. So we stay unpredictable. We never use the same tactic twice. We make them afraid to follow their own procedures exactly. Park Ji-won replied, "If we keep changing our approach, we can stay ahead of them indefinitely. They will never know what to expect from us." The second wave of human attacks struck 6 Valak systems simultaneously. Human raiders equipped with captured alien technology and enhanced frequency weapons hit supply convoys, communication relays, mining operations, and colonial outposts. They fought like space pirates, appearing without warning and vanishing into hyperspace before reinforcements could respond. The attacks were carefully coordinated to cause maximum disruption. Engineer Yang Kyung-soo had identified critical supply routes that connected Valak territory. The aliens needed resources from their conquered worlds to maintain their empire. Cut those supply lines and their military machine would begin to starve. Captain Oh Jung-woo led a strike team against a massive Valak supply convoy carrying processed metals from a slave mining world. His ship, the rebuilt New Busan, dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of the alien formation. The convoy's escort ships immediately opened fire, but Captain O had learned from previous battles. His vessel twisted through space in seemingly random patterns that made targeting impossible. The Valak weapons missed by wide margins. Then the frequency weapons activated. Every alien ship in the convoy simply stopped as their crews collapsed. The escort vessels drifted helplessly while human boarding parties secured the cargo ships. The captured supplies included rare metals needed for Valak ship construction, medical supplies for their colonies, and most importantly, detailed star charts showing the locations of hidden Valak military bases. Each successful raid brought new intelligence, new resources, and new proof that the mighty Valak Empire could be hurt by a determined enemy. The aliens began to demand military escorts for routine cargo runs. Their economy, built on the exploitation of conquered worlds, started to strain under the constant threat of human attacks. But the humans had learned something else from their enemy: the value of psychological warfare. Every attack was designed not just to inflict damage, but to spread fear throughout Valak space. Commander Da-un specialized in this type of operation. She led infiltration teams that struck at seemingly secure facilities. Her soldiers could appear anywhere, at any time, turning the Valak's own ships and bases against them. The most terrifying incident occurred at a Valak research station in the Outer Rim. A patrol ship found the facility drifting dead in space, its crew missing and its hull painted with a message in perfect Valak script. "We remember Earth. We are coming home." Inside the station, human infiltrators had left evidence of their presence everywhere. Security recordings showed them moving through the corridors like ghosts. Documentation was left behind detailing human plans for revenge against the Empire. Valak bodies were arranged in patterns that spelled out human words, promising death to all aliens. The psychological impact was devastating. Valak crews began to fear that humans could be anywhere at any time. Their own ships, their own bases, their own equipment could be turned against them without warning. News of the human attacks spread beyond Valak territory. Other species that had been conquered or intimidated by the Empire began to take notice. The Harani Republic, crushed 50 years earlier, received coded transmissions from human operatives. Captain Seo Min-jun, now leading diplomatic efforts, made contact with alien resistance groups across the galaxy. "We share the same enemy," his messages read. "Perhaps it is time we shared the same cause." The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Species that had lived in fear of Valak expansion suddenly saw hope for freedom. Underground resistance movements that had operated in secret for decades began coordinating with human strike teams. The Kalari from the Outer Spiral sent technical specifications for Valak shield generators. The Thorian mining guilds provided detailed maps of alien supply routes. The Zenith Collective offered sanctuary for human ships in their neutral space. What had begun as humanity's personal war of revenge was becoming a galaxy-wide rebellion against Valak tyranny. But the humans never forgot their original purpose. This was not about galactic liberation. This was about making the aliens pay for murdering Earth. Dr. Nam made another breakthrough while studying captured Valak biological samples. The frequency weapons affected more than just nervous systems. They could disrupt the aliens' advanced healing abilities, making even minor wounds potentially fatal. The weapons were immediately modified to exploit this weakness. Human soldiers began using frequency grenades that not only paralyzed Valak troops, but also prevented them from recovering. The aliens who had seemed nearly invincible became as fragile as any other species engineer. Yang Kyung-soo developed new ship designs based on captured Valak technology, but built according to human principles. The vessels looked like nothing that had ever flown before, organic curves mixed with angular armor plating. Advanced alien systems integrated with human engineering. These hybrid ships were faster, more maneuverable, and more deadly than anything in Valak service. They could match alien vessels in direct combat while maintaining the unpredictable tactics that had made humans so dangerous. The Valak High Command began to panic. Emperor Vorthak himself took command of the military response, ordering entire battle fleets to hunt down the human survivors. But the humans no longer fought like the honorable space navy they had once been. They fought like the apex predators their species had always been. Creatures evolved on a world where only the most adaptable survived, beings who had learned to turn any environment, any situation, any enemy weakness into an advantage. Admiral Hong-gi Young, the highest-ranking human naval officer to survive Earth's destruction, coordinated the resistance from a hidden base in the Kuiper Belt. Her tactical brilliance, honed by years of peacekeeping missions, was now focused on a single goal: the complete destruction of the Valak Empire. "The aliens expect us to meet them in open battle," she explained to her staff instead. "We will be everywhere and nowhere. Every trade route, every supply line, every communication relay becomes a potential target. We will make them afraid to leave their home systems." The strategy worked perfectly. Human raiders operating from hidden bases, Among asteroids and dead moons struck without warning and vanished before reinforcements could arrive, Valak merchants refused to travel without massive military escorts, their economy strangled. 4 years had passed since Earth became a memory written in starlight. The Valak Empire that once controlled 47 star systems now held fewer than 20. Their fleets had been scattered, their colonies in revolt, their economy collapsing, under the weight of constant warfare. But for the human survivors, this had never been about galactic liberation. This was personal. This was about making the species that murdered their world pay the ultimate price. This was about justice for 8 billion souls who had died in flashes of alien fire. General Quan Tae-young stood before a massive holographic display showing the Valak throne world of Kralos Prime. The planet was a fortress that had never fallen in 5 centuries of Imperial expansion. Orbital defense platforms surrounded it like deadly jewels. 20,000 Valak warships patrolled its space lanes. He had been a peacekeeping commander before the war, leading missions to stop conflicts between smaller species. Now he commanded every surviving human military asset in the galaxy. Less than 30,000 people remained from Earth's 8 billion, but they had become something unprecedented in galactic history. They think their homeworld is untouchable, he told the assembled human commanders. They think their superior numbers and ancient defenses make them safe. They thought the same thing about Earth. The final battle plan was audacious beyond anything humans had ever attempted. While Allied fleets engaged, Valak forces across multiple systems, drawing their defenders away from the capital. Every single human ship would assault Kralos Prime in one overwhelming strike. Captain Ryu Yunji commanded the flagship New Soul, built from the remains of dozens of Valak vessels, and enhanced with human creativity. Her ship carried the hopes and fury of humanity's survivors. It was armed with frequency weapons that could disable entire FLL. 2 years after Earth became cosmic dust, the Valak Empire was falling apart from within. What had started as isolated human attacks had grown into something far more dangerous, a galaxy-wide rebellion that threatened everything the aliens had built. Over 5 centuries of conquest, news of humanity's resurrection and rampage traveled through interstellar communication networks, reaching every corner of known space. Dozens of species that had been crushed under Valak rule watched with growing amazement as the supposedly extinct humans carved through enemy fleets like a sword through silk. The Harani Republic had been defeated 50 years ago, their homeworld occupied, their people enslaved, but they had never stopped fighting their underground. Resistance received coded messages from human operatives offering weapons intelligence, and most importantly, Hope Captain Seo Min-jun had become humanity's unofficial ambassador to the galaxy. His diplomatic ship, the New Gwangju, visited alien worlds throughout the Outer Rim, spreading word of human survival and alien vulnerability. His message was simple and powerful. The Valak can be beaten. We are living proof. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had lived in terror of Valak expansion began sharing intelligence networks. Underground resistance movements that had operated in secret for decades suddenly found themselves coordinating with human strike teams. The Thorian mining guilds controlled asteroid fields throughout the galaxy. They had been forced to give 70% of their production to Valak overseers. But when human raiders began attacking alien supply convoys, the miners quietly began providing sanctuary and resources to the attackers. Master Chief Lim Sora established hidden repair facilities in Thorian space. Her engineering teams worked around the clock, maintaining and upgrading human vessels. The aliens never suspected that their own subjects were actively supporting the rebellion. Dr. Nam made contact with Kalari scientists who had been studying Valak biology for decades. Their research, combined with human discoveries about frequency weapons, led to even more effective ways of exploiting alien weaknesses. The breakthrough came When Dr. Nam learned that Valak reproductive systems were also vulnerable to electromagnetic radiation, exposure to the right frequencies could sterilize entire populations. The weapon was never used, but the threat alone was enough to terrify alien leaders. More species joined the rebellion with each passing month. The Zenith Collective offered their advanced sensor networks to track Valak fleet movements. The Korthak warrior clans provided battle-hardened soldiers eager for revenge against their former conquerors. The peaceful Villani shared their diplomatic contacts throughout neutral space, but it was the Drakmari who provided the most valuable assistance. These reptilian hunters had been conquered only 20 years earlier. Their homeworld was still under direct Valak control. Yet they managed to smuggle detailed intelligence about alien military installations directly to human commanders. Colonel Bae Hyun-sik analyzed the flood of incoming intelligence from dozens of species. The picture that emerged was clear. The Valak Empire was not nearly as stable as it appeared. Their rule depended on fear and overwhelming force. When that force was challenged, their entire system began to collapse. They have no experience with prolonged resistance, he reported to Admiral Hong Gi-young. Every species they conquered either submitted immediately or was completely destroyed. They do not know how to fight an enemy that adapts, learns, and grows stronger with each defeat. The human fleet had become something unprecedented, a multi-species armada united by hatred of Valak tyranny. Human ships flew alongside Harani destroyers, Thorian mining vessels converted to warfare, Kalari stealth ships that could appear and disappear like ghosts. Captain Kim Tae-ho commanded a task force that included vessels from 7 different species. His cargo ship had been rebuilt so many times that almost nothing of the original remained. It was now a hybrid warship combining human engineering with the best technology from across the galaxy. The psychological impact of this alliance was devastating to Valak morale. Their intelligence reports spoke of impossible things. Human fleets supported by species that should have been completely loyal alien rebels, using advanced Valak weapons against their former masters, conquered worlds rising in coordinated rebellion. Emperor Vorthak himself took personal command of the military response. He was the oldest living Valak leader, a warrior who had overseen the conquest of 23 worlds. His experience stretched back over 2 centuries of successful campaigns, but he had never faced anything like humanity. His previous enemies had been civilized species that fought according to established rules of warfare. They had military traditions, honor codes, limits on what weapons they would use against civilian populations. Humans had no such restrictions. They had watched their entire species nearly go extinct. Their civilization had been completely destroyed. Their homeworld had been murdered along with 8 billion innocent people. The surviving humans fought with the fury of the bereaved and the desperate. Every battle became a lesson in human adaptability. The aliens would develop new tactics, and the humans would counter them within days, sometimes within hours. Private First-Class Park Ji-won had become a master at analyzing enemy patterns and finding weaknesses. They are too dependent on their command structure, he explained after studying recordings of a recent battle. If we can disrupt their communications, they lose coordination. If we can eliminate their officers, they become confused and ineffective. The human raiders began targeting Valak command ships specifically, using captured intelligence. They would identify fleet commanders and strike with overwhelming force. Admiral after admiral fell to human attacks. Their fleets left leaderless and confused. Commander Da-un specialized in these assassination missions, her infiltration. Teams could board enemy vessels undetected, eliminate key personnel, and escape before anyone realized what had happened. The Valak began to fear their own ships, knowing that death could strike from within at any moment. The most successful operation targeted Admiral Koreth, the Valak commander responsible for the original attack on Earth. Da-Un and her team infiltrated his flagship during a victory celebration, marking the third anniversary of humanity's supposed extinction. They found Admiral Koreth in his private quarters reviewing battle recordings of Earth's destruction. He was watching the moment when human cities disappeared in flashes of light, reliving his greatest triumph when death walked through his door. Da-Un spoke to him in perfect Valak before ending his life. "My name is Commander Choi Da-Un. I am a citizen of Earth, the world you murdered 3 years ago. This is for the 8 billion humans who died because of your orders. This is for every child who burned in your weapons. This is for the home you stole from us." The news of Admiral Koreth's assassination spread through Valak space like wildfire. The commander who had destroyed Earth was dead, killed by one of the very humans he thought he had exterminated. The psychological impact was overwhelming. Valak officers began requesting transfers away from the front lines. Some resigned their commissions entirely. The warrior culture that had built the empire started to crack under the strain of fighting. An enemy that refused to die other alien species watched these developments with amazement. The mighty Valak Empire that had dominated the galaxy for 5 centuries was being brought to its knees by 50,000 human survivors. It was impossible, yet it was happening. Neutral governments began quietly supporting the rebellion. The Altarian Trade Federation allowed human ships to use their space lanes. The mystic councils of Vega provided advanced medical technology to treat wounded human fighters. Even the isolationist builders began sharing their engineering knowledge. Captain O. Jung-woo led a massive raid against the Valak Naval Academy on Corvanus Prime. The facility trained the next generation of alien officers. It was supposed to be impregnable, protected by planetary defense systems and orbital battle stations. The human attack came from inside the planet itself. Da-Un's infiltration teams had been placed months in advance, disguised as maintenance workers and supply personnel. When the assault began, the Academy's defenses turned against the defenders. Frequency weapons broadcast from hidden transmitters paralyzed the teaching staff. Explosives planted in key systems brought down the orbital defenses. Human boarding. Parties poured through breached hulls like avenging spirits. The Academy fell in 6 hours. Its student body of future Valak commanders was captured, along with decades of military intelligence. The psychological message was clear nowhere in Valak. Space was safe from human revenge. By the 4th year of the rebellion, the Valak Empire controlled less than half of its original territory. Conquered worlds had risen in revolt, often supported by human weapons and advisors. The galactic economy had shifted as neutral species stopped trading with the increasingly unstable empire. Emperor Vorthak found himself ruling over a shrinking domain surrounded by enemies and facing rebellion from within. His own military leaders began to question his strategies. Some secretly negotiated with human representatives offering to defect in exchange for protection, but the humans were not interested in surrender or negotiation. They had watched their world die. They had seen their entire species nearly exterminated. They wanted nothing less than the complete destruction of every Valak ship, every Valak base, every Valak leader who had participated in the genocide. Admiral Hong Gi-young